So good evening. I welcome you to my class today. As it is my last class with you in fourth year, I like to transform this class into a question answer session because I think I will have to answer to your questions. You may have many questions from the texts that I have learned with you. I do always say I have learned with you. I do never say I have taught you because teaching is, I think, a very difficult job. I have some opinions and views of some texts, so it's my pleasure to share my opinions and views. So, Farzana Haq, please keep your microphone mute. So, anyway, Heart of Darkness is a colonial text, and this text was produced during the colonial period, during the period of during the reign of Queen Victoria. And we know that this text was published in 1901. Am I right? Anyway,
Yes, sir.
thank you. Chinua Achebe, that is an African novelist, very seminal African novelist, that is very powerful African novelist, presented a paper, an article on this Heart of Darkness in a seminar. And in his research paper that he presented in the conference, he has called Joseph Conrad bloody racist. Chinua Achebe called Joseph Conrad a bloody racist. So why? Because Chinua Achebe has discovered that the picture of the Africans that is incorporated into this has distorted the identity of the Africans. So how do you know it? If you make a journey into the heart of Congo with Marlowe, the narrator of this novel, Marlowe, a white man, a white narrator, just think of the irony. The story of Africa is not told by the Africans. The story of Africa is told by a European, Marlowe, a white man. This is the cruel irony. If you write my history, then I run the risk of being distorted by you. But if I write my own history, then you may hope that you will get authentic history or authentic story of my life. Okay, so the story of Africa is coming from the lips of a European narrator. So why? If you question, why do we hear the story? So if you question why do we hear the story from Marlowe and why don't we hear the story from an African character? Here lies the politics. And if you want to answer to this question, you have to explore the psychology of the European colonizers. The European colonizers believed that the Africans do not have any language. Now, what is language? Language is a repository of your culture. You must have heard the name of Antonio Gramsci, an Italian thinker, political thinker. Antonio Gramsci has said that language is a storehouse of your knowledge, of your culture, of your views and opinions. So if your language is enslaved, all your views, all your opinions, ideas, philosophy, ideologies are enslaved. So if I want to enslave you, I just have to enslave your language. Understand? This is a colonial politics, and you will find this politics in our subcontinent also. In 1952, what did Jinnah do, or what did the Pakistani rulers do? The Pakistani rulers wanted that Urdu should be our state language. That is, all the activities in the state should be done in Urdu, not in Bangla. So why did they do so, or why did they wanted to do so? Why did they want to do so? Actually, they wanted to do so because they had a very deliberate intention of enslaving our culture, annihilating our cultural identity. If you annihilate or delete your culture, then you will have no identity, because your culture defines you. Who are you? If I question you, you will say, sir, I am what my culture has made me. So you are what your culture has made you. And if your culture is manipulated, your identity will be manipulated. If your culture and the repository of your culture, that is language, is destroyed, then your identity will be destroyed. You will have no identity. You will be a non-entity. Understand? This is the colonial attitude, and this very attitude or this very ideology is known as Orientalism. I think you are well acquainted with this term, Orientalism. Orientalism is a very seminal term in post-colonial theory. On this particular ideology, Edward Said published a book in 1978. The name of that book is Orientalism. So what is Orientalism? Orientalism is the Western attitude towards the East, or towards Africa. Understand? Towards the people of Middle East. Orientalism is the Western attitude. The attitude that you find in Marlowe towards the Congolese people is Orientalism. The attitude that you find with Kurds towards the local people is called Orientalism. So Orientalism is an ideology that legitimizes the colonial enterprises or colonial exploitation, colonial oppression in different parts of the world. Okay. Now, if you think of Joseph Conrad himself was a man whose country was colonized. He left his country, Poland. He came to England. He took the citizenship of England, and he got the job in British Navy. And you know, Navy was a very powerful instrument of colonial project, because the Portuguese, the French, the British rulers or British colonizers, under the subterfuge of mercantile activities, under the pretext of doing trades, they went to different parts of the world. They went to different islands of Mediterranean Sea, Caribbean Sea. They also came to the subcontinent. They went to Africa. And what did they do? They ran business or mercantile activities. And very soon they took a hand in political affairs. And very soon they took up or snatched away the sovereignty of those countries and became the rulers. They captivated the center of power structure, and the local people were led to the margin or periphery of the society. This is called colonial project, colonial enterprise. So what do you find in Heart of Darkness? Kurz is an outsider. He is not an African. He went to Africa, that is Congo. So why, or what was his mission? His mission was to spread the light of knowledge among the Africans. That was his proclamation before going to uh, the heart of jungle or heart of Congo. Understand? So now, then what did he do there? He went there and he ultimately started exercising his brutality upon the local people. The local people did not exercise brutality upon the white people. The white people went there and exercised brutality there. So now this is not the heart of darkness. Whose heart is full of darkness? Kurtz's heart is full of darkness. Marlowe's heart is full of darkness. Marlowe, a representative of the colonizers. Okay. So, who are to be civilized? You will find a scene in Heart of Darkness that in one scene, the general manager of the company was going to the inner station with some local people. And the local people were cannibals, but they did not eat up the general manager. They did not eat up the manager. They might have killed him and eaten up his flesh, but they did not do so. Just think of this example. The local people who were called cannibals did not attack the manager. They rather ate up the rotten flesh of a dead hippopotamus. So the control that they showed is highly appreciable. And this very manner or behavior that the local cannibals showed proves that they are civilized. So you need not go there to civilize them. Rather, you have to be civilized. What did the white people do in Africa? They went there with their pistols. They went there with their swords. They went there with their guns. And they killed people. They exercised coercion upon the people. They exercised power upon the people and enslaved them. They threatened them, enslaved them. So who are to be civilized? Who are the killers? Not the black people. The white people were the killers. So they are to be civilized. And that is the message that Chinua Achebe gave in his paper on Heart of Darkness. And after discovering all these things and after exploring the mind of Joseph Conrad, he has called him a bloody racist. Racist, racialism, the racial superiority complex. Suppose the white people think that they are Adam's children. Adam means red earth. So the people who are white are made of red earth. So they are Adam's children. And what about the brown people? We are the brown people. The African are the black people. So what about them? They are not Adam's children. Then what are they? They are half human beings and half devils. This is the attitude of the European colonizers. So they think that it is their right to exercise power upon these people and enslave them. And you must have heard the name of Hegel, a German philosopher. Hegel also believed that slavery is good for the Africans. In Hegel's eyes, Africans are to be happier in enslavement in Africa than living as a free human being in their own country. So why did he do so? Why did he say so? This promulgation emanates from his racist attitude towards the Africans. Actually, all these ideologies, all these thinkings about Africa constitute Orientalism, constitute their colonial ideology. And this colonial ideology was used as a justifying ideology. legitimizing ideology. So what did they legitimize with this ideology? The exploitation, the colonial exploitation that they went on in different parts of the world, in the subcontinent, in Africa, in different other countries. You will find that this they just justified their colonial enterprise with these ideologies. Actually, they concocted these ideologies and distorted the identities of the people and imposed those ideologies upon the people. They created a new narrative or discourse of those colonized people. The discourse distorted their identity, and then they wanted to pose themselves to be the saviors. That is, you are not civilized, we are civilized, so it's our duty to civilize you. So colonizing mission was called civilizing mission. That was another hypocrisy of the colonizers. They were actually colonizing, but they declared it or branded it to be a civilizing mission. The Kurds, Kurds in Heart of Darkness, he also went to Congo with this civilizing mission. He told the people, he told the world that he was going there to spread the light of knowledge, to spread the light of civilization. But what did he do there? He was oppressing the people, killing the people, threatening the people with his guns, collecting ivory, and compelling the people to collect ivory on his behalf, and then exporting ivory to European countries. And in exchange, he would occupy a dignified position in his company. So was he civilizing there or exercising his brutality there? So who are to be civilized? Kurds is to be civilized at first. The local people did not come to Belgium to kill the Belgians. Okay, rather the Belgian government sent its representatives there to exploit the people, kill the people, and massacre the people. So thus, if you read this text very minutely from our perspective, we were also colonized. Our experience is tantamount to the experience of the Africans. If you laugh at the Africans, you laugh at yourselves also, because the experience that the Africans had was also experienced by the people of this subcontinent. But the intensity of colonial oppression was far, far greater in Africa than in this subcontinent. So why? Because in this subcontinent, we had some developed institutions. For example, we had education system. We had well-developed languages. We had well-established governments. So the British colonizers could not become as cruel, as brutal as they became in Africa, because in Africa, those institutions were very, very weak. If you think of Africa and African people, in Africa, there are more than 3,000 ethnic groups of people. More than 2,000 languages are there. They have diverse languages, diverse belief systems. They have diverse cultural varieties. So they are divided. The people were divided into clans. The people were divided into tribes. The people were divided into different groups. So it was very difficult for them to be united. They were disjointed. The people of Africa were disjointed. It was because of their cultural varieties. And that was the weakness of Africa. And the British colonizers just manipulated, or they misappropriated that very weakness of Africa. they made very appropriate use on their favor, that very weakness of the Africans. Okay. And we find this picture of colonial power, or the African identity, in the behavior of Marlowe, in the behavior of Coase. Marlowe seems to be very sympathetic, but you must not think that he is an individual. He represents the colonizers. Okay. Marlowe, suppose at the end of this novel, you will find that Marlowe is sitting just like Buddha on the deck of the ship. So why? Because he seems to be a wise man now. So how does he grow wise? He grows wise because he sees the real pictures in the heart of Africa, in the heart of Congo. So that very experience has made him wise. But what will he do with this wisdom? He will rather create a discourse to exercise the colonial enterprise or colonial power upon the natives. It is not possible for him to come out of the periphery of the colonizers and work on behalf of the colonized. Okay, so he is a part of the power structure. Nobody is alienated in capitalistic society. Everybody is a part of a system. You must not think of a man individually. A man is a part, is an ingredient, an integral part of the total system. Colonialism is a system. Language is a system. Your ideology is a system. Your religion is a system. So you are a part of that system. You must not say that I am individual, so if I am good, so everything will be good. It's a utopian attitude. Understand? So you must not deceive with such utopian ideas. Okay, so in this way, we find that Heart of Darkness has exposed the poverty, exposed the very dark aspects of Africa, and Africa is depicted with all its crudeness in Heart of Darkness. Africa is not glorified here. And just think of the title of this text, Heart of Darkness. So darkness refers to Africa. Congo is an African country, you know it. So Heart of Darkness refers to Africa. That is, Africa is a center of darkness. Darkness is equivalent to uncivilization, savagery, ignorance, illiteracy, or whatever is negative is equivalent to darkness. So this very title is a racist title. Why does he call Africa a heart of darkness? Africa has very rich heritage. These people, these European people, went to the banks of the sea and they looked at Africa from outside. They did never have any penetration or access into the heart of Africa, because the heart of Africa was very rich. If you think of pyramids today, in Sudan, there are more than 200 pyramids today, still today. Sudan is an African country. Just think how the Sudanese were inventive, how inventive they were, how prosperous they were, how prosperous their civilization was. But the British colonizers or the European colonizers do not bring out all those bright aspects of the heart of Africa. They just impose darkness upon Africa. So why? Because they want to justify their exploitation. It is done only with a deliberate purpose of exploitation. So just think of this title. Then you can understand the purpose of Joseph Conrad, and you can easily understand the attitude of the colonizers. Africa means the heart of darkness. So do we believe so? If you think of different cultures, if you think of Dahomey kingdom, if you think of Mali, if you think of Timbuktu, or if you think of Sudanese civilization, You will be astonished if you go to Ethiopia. You will be astonished at the discovery of different rich heritage and uh, ideas, ideologies of the Africans. But they did not bring all these things in front of you. So why? Because they justify their colonial enterprise. Okay. If you think of Cubism, you must have heard the name of Pablo Picasso. Cubism has come from Africa, and many things of algebra has come from Africa. Even the alphabet of European, many languages of Europe have also very close connection with African languages. Or if you think of hieroglyphics of Egypt, this hieroglyphics, uh, this very language has got a very intimate relation with the European languages. But Europe will never show any sort of, or even the slightest amount of gratitude towards Africa. So why? Because their only purpose is to transform Africa into a repository of slaves. Europe has land, but they do not have people. America has vast land, but they do not have people. And Africa has people. So how can they derive these people and take them to their country? Just they have produced a discourse that the Africans were uncivilized. So it is our duty to civilize them. So they took them to their countries and appointed them in human activities. That is called slavery. So Heart of Darkness is a text which should be studied and attempted very critically. And then I think you can easily understand the colonial discourse. You can also understand the role of Orientalism. You can also understand how the Europeans justified their exploitative enterprise in different parts of the world, not only in Africa, but also in other parts of the world, which were colonized by them. Okay, Sadia Afros, I think you have got your
Yes,
answer.
sir.
Now, anybody else?
Yes, sir. Very clearly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Now, do you have any question from any of the texts? Any question?
So, young Goodman Brown, sir, can you please say something about this text, particular text?
Young Goodman Brown is a very complicated text, and it is dedicated to the revelation of human psychology, and at the same time, it's a great critique of Puritanism. Understand? And you know that Hawthorne was a Puritan, and his father was also a Puritan, and his family had a very close connection with witch trial. Witch trial, you know, it was a very inhuman practice in.
Yes, sir. Black magic type.
Actually, if you think of the time of Shakespeare, William Shakespeare, the witches are available in Shakespearean dramas. Okay, suppose in Macbeth we meet the witches. So the ladies who grew old and who were deformed because of superannuation or because of old age were considered to be witches. And the English people believed that whatever calamities or whatever adversities occur in the country were performed or were done by those witches. So it is their duty to kill them or to burn them alive. Okay, so that was a very common practice among the Europeans. So just think of this inhuman practice. This is undoubtedly a very inhuman practice. So if you think of this practice, can you call them civilized? A woman is declared a witch and then she is burnt alive. Is this practice a civilized practice?
Definitely not.
but they call us, the people of this subcontinent, uncivilized. They call the people of Africa uncivilized. This is the politics. Just think very deeply, and you will get the answers to many of your questions. So in Young Goodman Brown, we find the relationship between Young Goodman Brown and his wife Faith, the relationship between husband and wife. And the time while this story began is very significant. It was the juncture of day and night. That is, the day was receding and night was falling. So it was evening. And young Goodman Brown was going out and he will come back tomorrow. But Faith does not want to let him go. She has pink ribbon in her locks of hair. So it's a very romantic scene, and Faith requests young Goodman Brown not to go now. But young Goodman Brown shows his urgency and goes. So he starts walking and walking and walking, and Faith stares at him until young Goodman Brown disappears at the turn of the village street. Anyway, afterwards we find that young Goodman Brown met an old man, a very peculiar old man with a stick. That very stick looks like a serpent. Sometimes it looks alive and sometimes it looks like a stick. So with that very strange old man, young Goodman Brown entered into a forest. Just think of this forest as a metaphor. This forest is human mind. This forest is your mind. This forest is the mind of a Puritan. Understand? And what did young Goodman Brown see there? He saw there some peculiar, unexpected incidents. He saw there some people whom he looked upon to be very pious people, very honest people, very virtuous people. Suppose Goody Cloyes. Then he also found there Gupin. And he entered into the heart of jungle, and there he found a fire. The fire was burning, a celebration was going on, and there he also found his father, his mother also. And strangely enough, he discovered his wife also there. Now, what is the implication of this scene? This very festival reveals the hypocrisy of Puritanism. The Puritan priests or the priestess or the virtuous people who are honored in the society for their attachment with the church are hollow men. They are just hollow men, hollow women. They are hypocritical. The practice that they make does not go with what they believe. So there is a gulf of difference. There is a dichotomy between what they believe and what they practice. This is the hypocrisy of Puritanism that Hawthorne has observed at a close quarter. And that very discovery has been revealed in this text. Now, how do you know it? You know that in the next morning, young Goodman Brown came back from the forest, and he was a different man. He stopped talking to anybody. He became a silent fellow, and in this way, he spent his life and died as an old man. So, why was he transformed? Or what was the factor working behind this transformation? Why did he change himself? Actually, he changed himself. He was utterly changed because of a trauma, because of a shock. That very shock or trauma was generated from his discovery of the hypocrisy of the Puritan faith or Puritan practice. Actually, so his transformation or his silence or his dramatic metamorphosis. That is, he was a very lively young man. He was a loving husband. He was a romantic fellow before going into the forest. But after coming out of the forest, he was a different man. We do find no enthusiasm in him. We do find no romantic vigor in him. We do find no enthusiasm regarding his religion in him. So why? Because he discovered that very fire was a festival of the devils. In the devil's festivals, all these virtuous men whom he looked upon to be virtuous, all these so-called virtuous people participated. So what does it mean, or what does it explicate? It explicates that these virtuous people were not virtuous in practice. They were supposed to be virtuous. They were virtuous in the eyes of the society. But in their practice, in their belief, in their dedication, they were attested with devilish or evil practices. This very contrast between appearance and reality, that we call irony in the language of rhetoric or figures of speech. So this very dichotomy, that is contrast between appearance and reality, was discovered by young Goodman Brown, and that very discovery transformed him, changed him. Understand, suppose a man is very hale and hearty, he is very enthusiastic, and suddenly one day he knows that he is suffering from blood cancer and his days are numbered, he will not survive more than 1 month or 2 months. Then what will happen? He will be transformed into a different man. He will find that he is utterly changed. That is the case with young Goodman Brown. He was enthusiastic. He was very much positive regarding his attitude towards Puritanism. But at the same time, he was susceptible. He was suspicious about the road of the Puritans that we find with Hawthorne. So this text is mostly autobiographical. Just keep it in mind. It is an autobiographical text. The change, the transformation, or the inquiries that you find with young Goodman Brown are also available in Hawthorne. Hawthorne was also suspicious about the activities, about the belief, about the practices of the Puritans of his time. Okay. And if you think of the spelling of the name of Hawthorne, you will find an E at the end of Hawthorne, E. But if you think of his father's name, or if you consult his father's name, you will not find this E. So why? It is because of protest against Puritanism. He changed his name, or he brought about an innovation in the spelling of his name. So just read this text or approach this text with all these things in your mind, then I think you can clearly understand it. And
Yes, sir.
it is a metaphor. Just think of this text as that it is a metaphor. Then I think it will help you unmask many things of contemporary Puritan society. Any more question?
I had some confusion regarding this text, some points, but your discussion made it clear, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, can you please again tell about some Orientalization?
Orientalism, okay.
Orientalism, yes, sir.
I just like to give you an example from W.B. Yeats's The Second Coming. Have you gone through this poem, The Second Coming? Do you have
Not yet, sir.
Yes. But do you have this poem in your syllabus? The Second Coming, a poem by W.B. Yeats. Yes or no? No. All right.
Yes, sir.
You have this poem in your syllabus? Yes or no? Just let me know. Okay, I think you don't have it.
Yes, sir.
You have this text in your syllabus. Okay, have you gone through
Yes, sir.
Have you gone through A Passage to India?
No, sir.
Not yet, sir.
Yeah, I think it is alarming. You have to finish all these texts, or you have to approach, at least to know the content of the text. Otherwise, you may be in trouble. You have so many texts in your syllabus. So why are you moving so slowly? Anyway, I just like to give an example from A Passage to India, or if you allow, I may give you an example from The Second Coming, and then I will tell you something about Orientalism. In the poem Second Coming, W.B. Yeats has said that before the birth of Jesus Christ, you know, Jesus Christ was born 2000 years ago. Am I right? So Yeats says that civilization started with the birth of Jesus Christ. Civilization started with the birth of Jesus Christ. And before the birth of Jesus Christ, the period or the time that we find beyond the birth of Jesus Christ was the period of uncivilization. He has used a phrase there. I request you to read this poem today, and you will find this phrase: the stony sleep. Stony, stone, you know, stone, rock, stony sleep.
So,
You will get this phrase. Okay. So what does he mean by stony sleep? Stone is very concrete. It remains unchanged. It does not go through any,
motionless.
it's motionless. So stony sleep means the period before Jesus Christ was a period of no motion, no change, no civilization, or no movement. It was a period of darkness. It was a period of illiteracy. It was a period of anarchy. It was a period of vacuity, that is vacuum. Okay. Now, do you believe it?
No, sir.
But I think while you read this text, you do not question. Am I right? While you read this text, you do not question. So why? Why don't you question? Now, I just like to give you another example from A Passage to India. In Passage to India, we find the protagonist, Dr. Aziz. Dr. Aziz is an Indian character. He's a physician. He received education from abroad. But he is depicted with all his crudeness. Though he is educated, he is Western educated. He has received Western education. He is a physician. He has taken a very good job in the hospital. Even then, he is not like a European gentleman. He is very crude in his expression of ideas. He is very clumsy in his activities. His room is very disordered. His ideas are not well organized. So why is Dr. Aziz depicted with all these crudeness? Because he is an Indian. He is not a European. So just think of the attitude of E.M. Forster towards the Indian characters. So do you have any curiosity to question E.M. Forster? Hey, E.M. Forster, why have you depicted me with all these crudities, all these clumsiness? Does this question cross your mind? I think it must cross your mind. So the intention with which they are doing this is Orientalism. the intention with which they are distorting us. They are making a concocted version of our identity. That very intention, that very ideology is called Orientalism. So Orientalism is the Western ideology which distorts us, which misinterprets us, which malrepresents us. This discourse is called Orientalism. Understand? This Orientalism is used as a tool, as a weapon to exploit us. They will prove with that very ideology that we are not civilized. Then what should we do? We should subjugate to them. We should show our obedience to them so that we can learn civilization from them. So we have to receive their language. We have to receive their curriculum. We have to receive their manners. We have to receive their ideas. Then what will happen? In course of time, we will be mimic men. Mimic men means we will be transformed into copied or imitated figures. Copied figures. That is, we will behave like them. We will have no culture. Our culture will be their culture. Their culture will be our culture. And what about our culture? Our culture will be abolished from our society. We will have no culture. They will annihilate our culture and they will impose their culture upon us. This is their intention. And that very intention is practiced in literary texts. So after the publication of Orientalism in 1978 by Edward Said, our attitude towards literature has utterly changed. And it is said that before the publication of Orientalism was a different world. So the world may be divided into two. Before Orientalism, after Orientalism. That is, before 1978, we studied literature very naively, romantically. But after 1978, that is after the publication of Orientalism, that very seminal book by Edward Said, we have learned that we have to read these texts with suspicion. We have to read these texts with questions. We have to approach these texts critically, not naively. This is the benefit of Edward Said's Orientalism. Understand? Now we read literary texts critically. Understand?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, I have another question. Can you please explain more about existentialism?
Existentialism is a very popular philosophy in 20th century. Existentialism was propagated by, or if you think of some exponents of existentialism, you have to go to Heidegger, Kierkegaard. These people prepared the grounds of existentialism because they thought about human essence or human existence or absolute. Even if you go to Hegel, if you recite Hegel's book, The Phenomenology of Spirit, you will find there Hegel's attitude towards the absolute spirit or absolutism. And from those ideas, ultimately, if we come to Jean-Paul Sartre, we get a very formulated form of existentialism. So existentialism is a philosophy. And this philosophy says that human beings are never happy. Human beings are never happy. Now, why? Why aren't we happy? We are not happy because we are anxious. So what is the cause of our anxiety? The cause of our anxiety is our sense of death. And this death is the final nothingness of man. Understand? So existentialism says that we are not happy because we are anxious, and death is the final nothingness of life, and that very sense of nothingness makes us anxious. So we are not happy at all. Human beings are not happy. And existence precedes essence. We have come from essence. So what is the essence? Essence is a spirit which has multi dimensions. It may be he or it may be she. It may be oppressive. It may be it may be very much what should we say, that is a savior force, or it may be black, or it may be white. So essence is a particular spirit that has the potential to take up any shape, any gender, any color, or any dimension. And many believers think that that very spirit or that very essence that Hegel has called absolutism is the conception of God. But actually, Hegel does not refer to God by this term, absolutism, because God, we believe that God is He. We do never believe that God is she. Do you believe that God is she? No. We always think that God is positive. Do you think that God is negative? No. But Hegel's conception of absolutism is accumulating all these dichotomies or all these binary oppositions. Okay. Now, this existentialism flourished in 20th century. Why? Especially after the Second World War. 2 world wars proved that human existence was meaningless. How? Suppose you are now enjoying my lecture, sitting in the corner of your room, and unfortunately, suppose unexpectedly, a bomb blasts there. Then what will happen? After a few seconds, we will find some pieces of flesh scattered here and there. You are not responsible for this. You do not know why you are facing this catastrophe. But very unfortunately, you are the victim of this. What happens during the wartime? During the wartime, bombs are dropped on localities, and many innocent people, old people, children, women are killed. They do not know what their fault is, what their sin is, but they are massacred. So if you think or if you question them, what is the meaning of life? What will be their answer? They will say meaninglessness is the meaning of life. Understand? Suppose you are going to Newmarket and unfortunately you are stepped by a snake and your purse is snatched away by the snake. So you die. So what is the meaning of life? If I ask you in that very situation, or if I ask your soul, what is the meaning of life? You will say, I do not know why I die. You do not know for what particular purpose you die. And you also do not know for what particular purpose you are living. Do you know? No. This very sense of nothingness is the key idea of existentialism. Understand? While we are living in the nightmarish situation of this 20th century, we feel that our life is meaningless. So why? Because we do not know that we will die for a noble cause. You do not know that you can die for a noble cause. Can you ensure that you will die for a noble cause? No, because you may be killed by its nature. You may be killed by a kidnapper. You may be killed by bomb blast. You do not know. You are living in uncertainty. that very uncertainty of your existence is creating a crisis. This is called existential crisis. An existential crisis is formulated in the philosophy which we call existentialism. Okay, and existentialism also says that we are not happy. Why? Because we are trapped between life and death. We cannot say that we are dying for a noble cause, and we cannot say that we are living for a noble cause. Do we have any noble cause to live? We do not know. Do we have a noble cause to die? We do not know. Then why are we living? We are living because we are not dead. We are living because we are trapped between life and death. This is existential philosophy. Understand?
Yes, sir. Sir,
Yes, sir. Thank you,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, do you have?
sir,
Yes.
sir. Can we say that existentialism is quite a bit related to carpe diem theory?
Epicurean theory or Epicurean philosophy. Epicurean
Yes.
philosophy was promulgated by Epicurus, a Greek philosopher. It was promulgated, or it was exposed by Epicurus, a Greek philosopher, and he told his followers that while you would die, you would have no chance to enjoy. So death closes everything. So enjoy while you can. Enjoy while you can. This is an Epicurean philosophy because the Epicureans or the hedonists give emphasis on the enjoyment of life. Enjoyment of life. Suppose you are making love, so make love, because you will have no chance after dying. After your death, you will not get any chance to enjoy love making. That is Epicurean philosophy. So Epicurean philosophy concentrates on the enjoyment of this material world. But existentialism does neither bother about material enjoyment nor the enjoyment awaiting you after death. This is the difference, basic difference. Understand?
Yes, sir.
Epicureans are not hopeless. They are hopeful. They are optimistic. They think that nothing remains after death. Death closes everything. So enjoy while you can. They concentrate on enjoyment. But the existentialists do not concentrate on this material enjoyment because they think that they are in the prison house. Understand? They think that they are in the prison house. And if you read a book, I just like to suggest that very book. It is written by Ben Okri, The Freedom Artist. This is the name of this latest novel of Ben Okri, The Freedom Artist. In that very book, you will find the conception of prison. As soon as you were born, you discover yourself in the prison. So I request you to collect that very book and read it, The Freedom Artist, written by Ben Okri. Okay. So
Okay, sir.
to an existentialist, this world is a trap. So can you enjoy in that trap? Can you enjoy in imprisonment? No. But the Epicureans enjoy. This is the difference. So you must not forget that very difference.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Any more question? I think this.
No, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, I think this session has become very long, and as it is my last class with you, formal last class, and if you need any more class, you may contact your guide teacher, and if she informs me, I will try my best to arrange a class and meeting. That would be my pleasure. So thank you very much.
So we're going to miss you
Thank
so
you,
much.
sir.
We'll also miss you all. So thank you very much, and I wish you all the
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.